Deafheaven, Lonely People with Power, album review, let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest record from California-based black metal band Deafheaven. They've been at it for quite some time now, since the early 2010s. And around the time of their debut, Roads to Judah, I thought the hype was pretty real, and honestly, I enjoyed the debut for the most part. I thought the first half of it, at least, was pretty crushing and ruthless and pretty game-changing as well. I only kind of wish that they kept it up in the second half. I've never been that into it. But clearly they've grown very quickly and blown up to an extent that I personally did not really expect. They've become one of the most premier US black metal acts. I certainly enjoyed Sunbather when it dropped, and I still love the damn thing, but it has blown up to a level that I really never expected. It's become a critical and fan favorite, practically lighting the way for a long list of US-based black metal projects. It's dense and adventurous, but it's also really emotional and beautiful at times. Not only that, it just has this sense of genre pushing. They were really pushing it here. They were trying so much, and I couldn't say no to it. And in 2015, they followed it up with New Bermuda, which personally I enjoy even more. It has a lot, and I mean a lot of the same feelings as Sunbather, but it's a little bit more dark and emotionally crushing as well. Now, their follow-up, Ordinary Corrupt Human Love, I enjoyed it at the time, and I still do enjoy it casually, even though at times I do kind of feel like it's a little bit more of the same. And sure, there are truly great moments, but in the year since its releases, I don't know. I feel like some of the experiments don't go as well as they planned. Not only that, but when this album does get boring, it becomes black metal background music very quickly. Now, for the most part, up to this point, I thought that Deafheaven were doing pretty solid work all around. Obviously, they had pushed out some pretty game-changing records. It'd be a real shame if they jumped the shark. Yeah, they kind of did with Infinite Granite. Personally, at the time, I was very curious to hear the band do a more tuneful and full-on shoegaze project. But outside of maybe 2 tracks tops, this thing is an absolute wasteland. So much so, it just kind of let the air out of me as far as Deafheaven's music goes. However, I have personally been very hyped for these new singles that they've been dropping lately, Magnolia and Heathen. I feel like the band's getting back on track, and from the sound of this new album here, yeah, they certainly do. They found their adventurous side as well. This album kicks off with Incidental 1, and yeah, you can kind of pass this off as another throwaway interlude, but for me, I actually think it's more than that, because this track hypes me up. It's dark, it's formless, it gives you this incredibly unnerving and foreboding feeling. It just makes you feel like an all-out attack is coming your way, and I do enjoy that. Then this thing just rips off completely with Doberman, and I'm really impressed with what I'm hearing. It's actually not the most explosive or triumphant cut. No, this one really takes its time getting going. But while maybe not as explosive as I expected, a lot of the genuinely crushing elements are here right off the bat, like the crashing guitar chords. George Clark's bellowing vocals as well, and if you were in any way disappointed with their last release, I feel like this is going to sound like a homecoming to you. And while not the most urgent start, a couple of minutes in and they're all out pummeling. It's a swirling, epic cut that reminds you who the hell you're dealing with. That makes for a thrilling cut all around. Magnolia is really great too. Initially, I was kind of in the middle of the road as far as the single went. When it first dropped, I was kind of lukewarm on it. Initially, I did kind of worry that this sounded like paint by numbers black metal. From a distance, it just sounds like more of the same. But the more I've listened to it, I've really been able to pick up on a lot of little details. It has a lot to offer. The ferocity of the band is just, oh God, it's applaudable here. This track comes off so animalistic. And hearing the band's direction on their last record, it's just great to hear them cut through a lot of the crap. It's nasty, it's gnarly, and it's only 4 minutes and 15 seconds if the band's longer material isn't for you. Really love the garden route as well. This once again just brings in that sense of adventure that the band was known for years. This one brings in a lot of the Blackgaze elements that put them on the map. It's nasty and it's gnarly, but it's also shimmering and beautiful at points. The gloomy atmosphere as well is just so easy to get lost in. It's epic. And every time this hook rolls around, it's just a thunderous release. Not only that, but I feel like the loud and soft back and forth dynamics of this track make it really engaging. And personally, I still haven't come down from Heathen. I think this is one of the better singles the band has dropped in a decade. Mostly because, for me, this is the medium that I want to hear from the band. I mean, for one, the atmosphere here is the most incredibly dark one that we get on this entire project. This riff has so much drive to it, and this track just encapsulates everything around it. This takes what they were doing on Infinite Granite and incorporates it into their modern sound a little bit more, and it makes for a hell of a track. Also, really love Amethyst. This is the longest cut here. It's over 8 minutes, and honestly, rightfully so. It's a pensive track that shows the band very slowly building up an atmosphere, but in the most tasteful way. And that goes all around because this entire instrumental is kind of built up brick by brick here. Twinkling guitars, a hazy, dreamlike atmosphere. Incredible pacing as well. So much so that when the heavier moments of this track arrive, it's honestly euphoric. I mean, the way that this track builds up over time, it's just a masterclass in modern black metal and maybe the best deep cut here. Now, the band almost completely nails this return to form. However, I do have a couple of blips on my radar I want to chat about. Incidental 2, featuring Jay Matthews of Boy Harsher fame. This is around the time where the band, sort of drops on consistency on this record. I mean, this track on paper sounds like a match made in heaven. I mean, it's a real shame with just how boring it is. I mean, this looming instrumental, it's certainly interesting, but the band doesn't really capitalize on it and really push it anywhere. Jay Matthews here sounds more lost than cool, and yeah, it eventually leads to the final 30 seconds, I should say, which are pretty exciting, but man, it took a lot to get there. Revelator, sadly, this is my least favorite track here. This is one of the most faceless black metal cuts here. That chugging riff right off the bat, it's just ugly to me. And because of that, I feel like this track kind of falls apart, at least from my ears. I mean, this all of a sudden sounds very cookie cutter. For me, this sounds like a who's who of modern black metal trying to rip off Deafheaven. Even the more somber and emotional moments in the second half just seem so phoned in and just not capitalized on. It's sad. And speaking of features that go nowhere, we also have Incidental 3 featuring Paul Banks of Interpol. What is this? Paul sounds entirely lost on this track. I mean, more lost than he did on the Banks and Steels project. God, remember that? It's supposed to be this dramatic, intense, emotional interlude, but it's just really flat. And sadly, it just kind of takes the air out of my tires and really ruins the vibes that I was having from this record. So yeah, it's not the perfect album, but I just am glad that Deafheaven are getting a little adventurous and experimental again and really pushing the band's sound further once again. Body Behavior, it's great. This one throws you right back into the fire immediately too. It's just so dense. I love the looming verses on this track so much. It's also one of the darkest sounding tracks on this record. It reminds me of what I initially loved about Deafheaven's music. There's also this delicious sense of mystery to this track, powered by the guitars floating through the background. It's awesome. Winona also just excites me so much from the get-go. The way that this track immediately starts building, spiraling upwards, adding layers, it's awesome. The intense drums, the looming sense of just emotion in the atmosphere. Everything about this cut just cuts hard for me. The way that this track just starts building, just adding layers, spiraling upwards, it's just exciting for me. This is the kind of genre-pushing cut that I'll never be disappointed to hear from Deafheaven. Really emotional as well. Pound for pound, it might be the most epic track here, exciting me for the future, and in true Deafheaven fashion, the final moments are gorgeous. In The Marvelous Orange Tree, as a finale, it's not good, but it's not also exactly the worst track here. It's kind of middle of a road as the finale. I will say, it's got one of the record's most serene and beautiful atmospheres. But the way that the drums come crashing in on here and the guitar tones, now that's all good. It's a fairly epic conclusion, but some of the verses kind of rub me the wrong way. Some of the more low-key moments on this track, especially when it comes to the verses, give me big Infinite Granite vibes and just rub me the wrong way. It's a decent finale, but you can absolutely sign me up for whatever the hell the band's going to be doing next. This album here really reignited my interest in Deafheaven after I just kind of got the air taken out of my tires with the last record. It's explosive, it's adventurous, it shows the band trying new things and pushing towards their future. Not only that, but they just sound so crushing and so focused, and I have to salute that. I'm feeling a very strong 7 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.